They told me I forgot my own daughter's wedding. They said I was losing my mind, that the house I built with my own 2 hands was too much for me. They thought I was weak, a confused old man ready to be put away. They were about to find out this old carpenter still knew how to tear things down. If you're listening to this story, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. The smell of sawdust and linseed oil, that was my life. It was the smell of my workshop, the place I felt closest to Martha, even 2 years after she was gone. The silence in the house was loud, but in here, with the wood and the tools, I could still hear her humming. I ran my hand over the walnut jewelry box, smooth, polished, perfect. I'd inlaid it with a cherry blossom pattern, just like the tree Martha and I planted in the backyard when Chloe was born. Our little girl. This was for her. Tomorrow, Chloe was getting married. I'd spent 4 months on that box, every joint dovetailed by hand. I'm a builder, a carpenter by trade. My hands are used to heavy work, framing houses, building cabinets. Retirement had been tough, left my hands idle. But this was work for the heart. It was the best work I'd done in a long time, maybe ever. I looked at the calendar hanging by the door, the one I used for tracking projects, November 20th, 2025, circled in thick red ink. I'd been waiting for this day ever since Chloe announced her engagement to Mark. Mark, he was a nice enough young man, I supposed. A bit too smooth. He wore suits that looked expensive, drove a car that hummed silently, not like my old truck, which rattled and roared with honesty. He worked in finance, asset management. I didn't understand it, but Chloe seemed captivated. She had been distant lately, always busy with the planning, I assumed. I didn't worry, she was starting a new life. I just wanted her to be happy. I never imagined how much that happiness would cost me. I wiped the dust off my hands, picked up the phone. My fingers trembled slightly. Excitement. I wanted to tell her about the jewelry box, to confirm the time for the rehearsal dinner tonight. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Dad? What is it? I'm really busy. Chloe's voice was tight, sharp around the edges, like a frayed wire. Busy. Sweetheart, of course you are. I chuckled. Warmth spread through my chest. I just finished the jewelry box. It came out beautiful, just like you will be tomorrow. I paused, waiting for her happy reaction, for the sound of the little girl who used to clap her hands when I fixed her broken toys. Silence. Chloe, I continued, my voice softening, I just wanted you to know how much this means to me. Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. The silence on the line was heavy, cold. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. Chloe, you there, honey? I heard shuffling, a muffled conversation. Then a different voice came on the line. It was Mark. He laughed. It wasn't a joyful laugh. It was sharp, mocking, like the sound of shattering glass. Arthur, he said, using my first name. He'd started doing that recently. I hated it. It felt dismissive. Arthur, I think you're a little confused. Confused? What do you mean, confused? I'm just excited for the big day. Is the rehearsal still at 6? Mark laughed again, that same grating sound. Arthur? The wedding was a week ago. The world stopped. The workshop. The smell of sawdust. The jewelry box on the bench. It all seemed to tilt sideways. What? That's not possible. My voice sounded strange, thin and reedy. I have it right here on the calendar, November 20th. No, Arthur. It was the 13th. His voice was smooth as oil, slick. It was a lovely ceremony. Small. Intimate. We thought a big fuss would be too overwhelming for you. Overwhelming? My daughter's wedding? I would never forget that. The warmth in my chest was gone, replaced by a creeping ice. Arthur, we talked about this, Mark said, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. Your memory has been slipping lately. It's okay. You were there, actually, Mark continued. You sat in the front row. You even gave a toast. Don't you remember? I gripped the edge of my workbench so hard my knuckles turned white. I was not. I would know if I was at my own daughter's wedding. I bought a new suit. Dad? Chloe's voice was back, small and tearful now. Please don't get upset. Mark is right. You were there. I wasn't, Chloe. You forgot, she whispered. It's been happening more and more, Dad. We're worried about you. It wasn't okay. I felt a wave of dizziness. The workshop spun slightly. Had I forgotten? Was I losing my mind? I looked at the calendar again. November 20th. My handwriting, my red ink. I have to go, I stammered. I hung up the phone before they could hear the sob that ripped through my chest. I couldn't let them hear me break. Not yet. I stumbled out of the workshop, into the house. The familiar walls of the home Martha and I had shared for 40 years seemed to close in on me. I went to the kitchen. The big calendar on the fridge. November 20th. Circled. Chloe's wedding day. I wasn't crazy, but the certainty in Mark's voice, the sadness in Chloe's, it planted a seed of terrifying doubt. I was 70 years old. People forget things. My own father struggled towards the end. Was it happening to me? The fear was paralyzing. If I couldn't trust my own mind, what could I trust? The next few days were a blur. I didn't leave the house. I felt tired, sluggish, like I was walking through water. My head felt heavy. My thoughts wouldn't connect. I kept losing things. My keys? My glasses? I'd find them in strange places. The keys in the refrigerator, the glasses in the pantry. I started to believe I was disintegrating. Piece by piece, the silence in the house was unbearable. 3 days later, Chloe and Mark came over. I hadn't invited them. They walked into my living room like it was already theirs. Mark looked around, eyeing the antique furniture Martha had loved. The sturdy oak beams I had installed myself. He looked at my home like it was an asset to be liquidated. "Arthur, we need to talk," Mark said. He sat down in my favorite armchair, without asking. Chloe hovered behind him, wringing her hands, refusing to meet my eyes. My own daughter couldn't look at me. "About what?" I said, my voice rough. "About how you lied to me, about how you excluded me from the most important day of my daughter's life." "Dad, please," Chloe whispered. Her eyes were red. "We didn't lie. You're just confused. We're genuinely concerned, Arthur," Mark cut in. He leaned forward. "All business. Forgetting the wedding, that was a major lapse. But it's not just that. You're losing things. You leave the stove on. This house is too much for you to handle alone." "Lies. I handle it just fine. I built half of this place." I protested. "I know you did," Mark said, soothingly. Too soothingly. "But that was a long time ago, Arthur." Then came the pitch. The one they had clearly rehearsed. "We've been looking at some options," Mark said. "There's a lovely assisted living facility just outside the city. Green Meadows. They have activities. Nurses on staff. Beautiful grounds." I stared at him, horrified. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. "Assisted living? You want to put me in a home?" "It's for your own safety, Dad," Chloe said. Tears welled up in her eyes. They looked real, but I wasn't sure anymore. "We just want what's best for you." "What's best for me is staying in my own home," I shouted. "And my mind is fine." "Is it, though?" Mark raised an eyebrow. He reached into his expensive leather briefcase. He pulled out a stack of papers. "These are overdue bills," he said, fanning them out on the coffee table. "The electricity, the water, the property tax." My blood ran cold. "Found them stuffed in your desk drawer when we were cleaning up last week." Mark added casually, "You forgot to pay them, Arthur." I looked at the bills. Overdue. Marked with angry red stamps. But I didn't remember seeing them. I was meticulous about my bills. I paid them the day they arrived. How could I have missed them? I don't understand," I mumbled. The doubt crept back in, stronger this time. The fog in my head seemed to thicken. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was losing it. "It's okay," Mark said. His voice was slick with predatory patience. "We understand. It's getting hard. Which is why we think it's time Chloe and I take over the finances." He pulled out another document, thick, official-looking. "We need you to sign this power of attorney," he said. "It just means we can handle the boring stuff for you. And then the real blow, the reason for all of this. And the house," he continued, as if it were an afterthought. "It's worth a significant amount. We can sell it. We can use the money to make sure you're comfortable at Green Meadows for a long, long time." They weren't trying to help me. They were trying to erase me. They had started by taking my daughter's wedding. Now they were taking everything else. "No," I said. I stood up, forcing strength into my legs. They felt heavy, unsteady. I will not be going into a home, and I will not be selling my house. I pointed to the door. I want you both to leave. Mark stood up too. He towered over me. His face darkened. The mask of sympathy slipped, and I saw the cold greed underneath. Arthur, don't be difficult, Mark snapped. You're not thinking clearly. I am thinking clearly. I am thinking clearly, I insisted, though my voice trembled. If you continue to be stubborn, Mark threatened, his voice low and menacing, we might have to take legal steps. Whether you agree or not, he leaned closer, invading my space. Do you want us to go to court? He whispered, his eyes cold and hard. Do you want us to have you declared incompetent? Incompetent. The word hung in the air. A death sentence. The idea of losing my autonomy.
It terrified me more than anything else. They left, but the fear remained.
The doubt they planted was growing, choking me. I needed help. I needed a lawyer. I called Robert Henderson. He'd been my family lawyer for 30 years. He drew up the will with Martha. He knew me. Henderson's office. The young receptionist answered, This is Arthur Thompson. I need to speak with Robert. It's urgent. I waited on hold for 10 minutes. Finally, Henderson picked up. Arthur, what can I do for you? His voice was brisk, impatient. Robert, it's Chloe and Mark. They're trying to put me in a home. They're trying to take the house. They're telling me I'm losing my mind. Silence, then a long sigh. Arthur, Henderson said, his tone condescending. I spoke with Mark last week. He's very concerned about you. They both are. He knew. He already knew. And he was siding with them. Concerned? They're lying to me, Robert. Arthur, let's be realistic, Henderson said. You're getting older. These things happen. Mark is just trying to ensure your safety. Green Meadows is a fine facility. I suggest you cooperate with them. It will be easier for everyone. I hung up. My last lifeline had been cut. They had gotten to my lawyer. I was utterly alone, trapped in a reality they were creating for me. The next morning I called Linda. Linda was my neighbor across the street. A retired librarian, Martha's best friend. She was sharp, observant, fiercely loyal. Arthur, you sound terrible. What's wrong? She asked. I told her everything. The wedding, the bills, the threat of Green Meadows. Henderson's betrayal. I felt deeply ashamed telling her, admitting that everyone thought I was failing. Linda listened quietly. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. Arthur, she said finally, her voice firm, you are not losing your mind. You are the most organized man I know. Her certainty was a balm to my soul. Something is very wrong here, she added, her tone darkening. But the bills, Linda, I can't explain it. I rubbed my temples. The headache was back. And I feel so foggy lately. So tired. All the time. We'll figure it out, she said. I'm coming over. Linda arrived half an hour later, armed with a thermos of coffee and determination. We started in the office. You always keep your bills in this organizer, Linda said, pointing to the plastic tray on the desk. It was empty. You don't stuff them in a drawer. We started looking through the mail, piles of junk mail, but nothing important. Linda noticed something immediately. Arthur, when did you start getting your bank statements electronic lately? I didn't. I always get them by mail. I like the paper copies. Well, there are none here from the last 2 months, she said. Nor are there any utility bills. They were gone. All of them. They were stealing my mail. We called the bank. I put the phone on speaker. I need to check the mailing address on my account, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The representative confirmed that the mailing address was changed 2 months ago. To a P.O. box. I didn't authorize that. I protested, gripping the phone tightly. I'm sorry, sir, the representative said. Dismissive. Our records show that you authorized the change in person. The signature matches our records. I hung up, violated. Helpless. They had forged my signature. Mark had taken the bills, hidden them until they were overdue, and then pretended to discover them. Just to prove I was incompetent. The clarity of their manipulation was starting to break through the fog. They were gaslighting me, making me doubt my own reality. But the real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. The doorbell rang. It was Bill Jenkins, an old contracting buddy. We'd built half the town together. I hadn't seen him in months. "Arthur, good to see you, old-timer," Bill said, clapping me on the back. His grip was still strong. "Bill, what brings you by?" I asked, surprised. "Ran into your son-in-law, Mark," Bill said, stepping inside. "Nice fellow. He said you were having a bit of trouble lately. Thought I'd check on you." "Mark sent him." "Of course he did." We sat in the living room. Bill looked around. "House looks good, Arthur. Still remember framing this room. 1985, wasn't it?" 1987, I corrected automatically. "Could have sworn it was 85, Bill chuckled. "Memory plays tricks on you when you get old, eh?" He kept doing that, misremembering things, small things. Things I knew for certain. He was testing me. Or worse, he was part of the performance. "Mark says you're thinking of selling up," Bill said, casual, too casual. "They're thinking of it. I'm not," I said, my voice tight. Bill sighed. "Arthur, we're not young bucks anymore. Maybe it's time to let go. Enjoy the quiet life." Mark said, "There's a nice place picked out. Green Meadows." "You too, Bill?" I whispered. The betrayal stung, an old friend doubting me. It hurt almost as much as Chloe's betrayal. "Don't be stubborn," Arthur, Bill said, standing up. "They're just looking out for you. Think about it." He left. I realized how deep Mark's manipulation went. He was turning my world against me. Later that afternoon, Chloe stopped by. She said she was there to help me organize my medications. She had offered to do this a few weeks ago. I had gratefully accepted. I trusted her. "My daughter." "Dad, look at this mess," Chloe said loudly, making sure Linda, who was still in the office, could hear. She walked over to the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. "You have so many bottles. It's confusing. Let me sort this out for you in the organizer." I watched her. A knot tightened in my stomach. I knew my medication, my blood pressure pills, my cholesterol medication. That was it. Chloe started transferring the pills. Her hands were shaking. She seemed nervous. "Guilty, Chloe?" "I can manage my own medication," I said quietly. "Dad, you forgot to take your blood pressure pill yesterday," she said, not looking at me. "We can't risk that." Had I forgotten? I wasn't sure anymore. The fog. It was getting thicker every day. It made everything seem slippery. Unreal. When Chloe left, Linda walked into the bathroom. She looked at the pill organizer. "Arthur," she said, her voice low, "did your doctor prescribe anything new recently?" "No, just the usual." Linda picked up the organizer, examined the pills. "These blue pills. I don't recognize them. They weren't in your bottles." I stared at the small blue pills, nestled among my regular medication. Where had they come from? "Chloe must have added them," I said. A cold dread washed over me, deeper than before. My own daughter. "We need to find out what they are," Linda said grimly. We took the pills to a pharmacy across town. I didn't want to go to my regular pharmacy. Afraid word would get back to Chloe. I felt like a criminal. Sneaking around, asking a stranger to identify a mysterious pill. The anxiety was eating me alive. But I had to know the truth. The pharmacist, a young man named Peter, examined them. He looked up. His expression was concerned. "Where did you get these, sir?" he asked. "They were mixed in with my other medications," I said vaguely. Peter typed something into his computer. His frown deepened. "This is a strong sedative," he said. "Sedative? It's sometimes used for anxiety?" he continued. "But it can cause significant confusion, memory loss, and dizziness, especially in older adults." He looked me straight in the eye. "It's definitely not something that should be taken without close monitoring. Taking this regularly could be very dangerous." Sedatives. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, leaning against the counter. The fog, the dizziness, the confusion, the headaches, the sluggishness, the lost keys, the forgotten conversations. It wasn't dementia. It wasn't old age. It was poison. My own daughter was drugging me. If this story has your racing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep uncovering stories that deserve to be heard, because what happened next changed everything. They drugged me so I would seem incompetent. They drugged me so I would be compliant. Weak. They likely drugged me heavily the day of the actual wedding, ensuring I had no memory of it. Or perhaps I never even went. Their claims that I was there were just more lies. Lies to destabilize me, to make me doubt my own mind. They drugged me so they could steal my house, my savings, my life. The depth of the betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just greed, it was cruel. They were willing to make me believe I was losing my mind, the most terrifying thing a person can face, just to get their hands on my assets. I thought of Chloe as a little girl, running into my workshop, her laughter echoing through the house. I thought of how I held her when she scraped her knee, how I taught her to ride a bike. That girl was gone, replaced by a stranger who looked at me with cold, calculating eyes. The fear that had paralyzed me evaporated, replaced by a burning, righteous anger. They thought I was a helpless old man, weak, confused. They underestimated me. They didn't see the builder, the man who knew how to construct a solid foundation and how to tear one down. "We need proof, Arthur," Linda said. We were back in my kitchen, her voice shaking with indignation. "Concrete proof. The forged signature isn't enough. We need to prove they were drugging you deliberately." "I know," I said. My mind was racing. The fog was completely gone now, replaced by sharp, cold clarity. We need to catch them in the act. But first I wanted to see the place they planned to put me. I needed to see the cage they had built. "Linda, we're going to Green Meadows," I said. We drove there the next morning. It looked beautiful from the outside. Sprawling lawns, big oak trees, a facade of peace. We walked inside. The lobby was luxurious, like a hotel. We met the director, Mrs. Eleanor Davis, a woman in her 50s, perfectly coiffed hair, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're looking for a place for my uncle," Linda lied smoothly. "He's starting to have some memory issues." Mrs. Davis gave us the tour. The dining room was elegant. The activity room was bright, but the residents, they looked empty, sedated, sitting in wheelchairs, staring at walls. The air smelled like disinfectant and decay. "And for residents who require more intensive care?" Linda asked. Mrs. Davis's smile tightened. "We have a specialized memory care unit, the back wing." We walked down a long corridor. The carpet was thinner here, the lights dimmer, the air heavier. We looked through a window into the memory care common room. It was crowded, noisy, chaotic, people wandering aimlessly, crying out. "It seems crowded," I said, my voice tight. "We manage our residents effectively," Mrs. Davis said, her voice cold. "Medication helps keep things calm. It's efficient. Effective. Efficient. Not caring. Not compassionate. It was a business, a warehouse for the forgotten." I looked at the faces of the people in that room, and I saw my future. The future Chloe and Mark intended for me. It hardened my resolve. I would not go quietly. We went to an electronics store. We bought a small, hidden camera, disguised as a clock radio. It felt strange. Spying in my own home. But it was necessary. We placed it in the kitchen, pointed towards the area where Chloe organized my medication. The red numbers glowed innocently. The trap was set. The next day, I played the role they had created for me. The doddering old man. I pretended to be confused, docile, tired. It was the hardest performance of my life. I stopped taking the pills from the organizer. I flushed them instead. But I needed them to believe I was still under their influence. I needed them to believe they were winning. When Chloe came over, I decided to take a risk. A huge risk. I complained about feeling anxious. I rubbed my temples. I sighed heavily. "I just feel so jittery." "Chloe," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "do you have anything that might help?" If she suspected I was onto her, she might stop. We would lose our chance to catch her. I had to be convincing. Chloe looked relieved. Too relieved. Her eyes lit up slightly. "Of course, Dad. I brought you something. Just in case." I watched her, my heart pounding in my chest. She went to the kitchen. I could hear the sound of pills rattling in a bottle. It was from her purse. She came back with a glass of water and one of the blue pills. "Here, Dad. This will help you relax," she said, her voice sweet as poison. I took the pill. I pretended to swallow it, but I tucked it under my tongue. When she turned away, I spat it out. I hid it in my pocket. The evidence was mounting, but I needed more. I needed to know the extent of their plan. I needed to hear their motives, in their own words. That evening, Chloe and Mark came over to discuss the transition to Green Meadows. They were confident now, arrogant. They thought they had won. I pretended to fall asleep early in my armchair. I closed my eyes. I breathed slowly, deeply, like I was heavily sedated. They moved into the dining room, thinking I was safely oblivious. I strained to hear them, my senses sharp and clear. For the first time in weeks, the lawyer, Henderson, said the power of attorney should be finalized by the end of the week, Mark was saying, his voice low, arrogant. "Once we have that, we can list the house immediately." He chuckled. That same cold, sharp laugh. I had buyers lined up. "We can get 500,000, easy, maybe more. This neighborhood is hot right now. 500,000. That's what my life was worth to them." "And Green Meadows?" Chloe asked, her voice hesitant. "They have a room available," Mark said dismissively. "The cheap one. In the back wing. It doesn't matter." Then he said the words that chilled me to the bone. "He won't even know where he is once we increase the dosage." Increase the dosage? They were planning to drug me into oblivion. They were planning to steal my mind. "I still feel guilty, Mark," Chloe whispered. "He's my father. What if the drugs hurt him permanently?" For a split second, I felt a pang of hope. Maybe my daughter was still in there. But Mark's response crushed it instantly. "Guilty?" Mark scoffed. His voice was harsh. "Chloe, grow up. My business is failing. We are drowning in debt." Debt. So that was it. Money. It always came down to money. "The creditors are calling me day and night," Mark hisses. "This house is our lifeline. It's the only way out." He paused. "He owes us. He had a good life. This is our payout." "Our payout. Now stop whining," he ordered, "and help me pack these boxes." I had heard enough. The cold, calculated greed. The utter lack of remorse. They weren't just stealing my house. They were stealing my life. And they felt entitled to it. I waited until they left, the sound of Mark's silent car fading into the night. I retrieved the memory card from the hidden camera. Linda came over. We watched the footage together. It was clear as day. Chloe, taking the blue pills from a bottle hidden in her purse, putting them into my pill organizer, her face calm, methodical. And then, the audio from the dining room. Their voices, clear, damning. We had them. I knew I couldn't face them alone, and I couldn't use Henderson. I needed someone new, someone sharp. I called a lawyer Linda recommended, a man named Michael Evans, specializing in elder abuse cases. I explained the situation briefly. He agreed to meet us the next day. Mr. Evans was a sharp man, in his late 40s, compassionate eyes. He listened patiently to my story. He examined the pills, the pharmacist's report, the bank documents showing the forged address change, and the footage from the hidden camera. His expression grew grim. "Mr. Thompson," he said, leaning forward, "this is one of the worst cases of psychological and chemical abuse I've ever seen. They were systematically poisoning you to gain control of your assets." He shook his head. "This is criminal. I want them stopped," I said. My voice steady, strong, and I want my life back. "We will get it back," Mr. Evans promised, "and we are going to involve the police. This goes beyond civil court." He made a call. He spoke to a detective, Sarah Chen, Financial Crimes Unit. "Detective Chen is opening a case on Mark Davis," Evans said, hanging up. "She's been investigating his business dealings. It seems your son-in-law is in very deep water. This just adds a layer of criminality. The walls were closing in on Mark, and he didn't even know it. Here's what we are going to do," Evans continued. "We need to confront them in a controlled environment. where the evidence can be formally documented. The plan was set, the final confrontation. Mr. Evans called Chloe and Mark. He told them that I had finally agreed to sign the power of attorney. He arranged a formal meeting at his office the following afternoon. Chloe and Mark were ecstatic. They thought they had finally won. They thought I was broken. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. I prepared myself carefully. I wore the new suit I had bought for the wedding. The charcoal gray one. The one I thought I had forgotten about. Linda found it hidden in the back of the guest room closet. Another attempt by Chloe to make me doubt myself. I looked in the mirror. I saw an old man, tired, heartbroken, but not broken. Linda drove me to the lawyer's office. We walked into the conference room, large mahogany table, leather chairs. Chloe and Mark were already there, seated at the table. They were smiling, radiating victory. Their smiles faded when they saw me, the clarity in my eyes, the strength in my posture. I wasn't the doddering old man they expected. "Dad, you look better," Chloe said, her voice uncertain. She glanced nervously at Mark. "I feel better, Chloe," I said. I sat down across from them. Linda sat beside me, a silent guardian. Mr. Evans opened the meeting. His voice was calm, professional. "We are here today to discuss the transfer of power of attorney for Mr. Arthur Thompson." "Excellent," Mark said. He hid the documents from his briefcase. He slid them across the table towards me. "We have the papers ready for Arthur to sign. We appreciate you making this easy, Arthur." I didn't touch them. "Before we do that," Mr. Evans said smoothly, "there are a few issues we need to address regarding the management of Mr. Thompson's affairs over the past few months." He opened a folder. He laid out the documents on the table. The bank statements, the altered address, the forged authorization. Mark froze. His smug expression vanished. Chloe looked confused. "What is this? Why are you bringing this up now? And this?" Evans continued, laying down the pharmacist's report on the blue pills. "This," Mr. Evans said, his voice cold and precise, "is evidence of systematic fraud, financial exploitation, and physical abuse." "I don't know what you're talking about," Mark said, his voice tight. His eyes betrayed his panic. He was sweating. "This is slander. Arthur is confused," Mark insisted, his voice rising. "We have been trying to help him. He needs help." "I think you do, Mr. Davis," Mr. Evans said. He nodded toward his assistant, who was standing quietly in the corner. The assistant turned on the large screen mounted on the wall. The screen flickered to life. It showed the footage from my kitchen. High definition, crystal clear. Chloe, taking the blue pills from a bottle hidden in her purse, putting them into my organizer. Chloe gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her face turned ashen, white as a sheet. Mark stared at the screen, his jaw tight, and then the audio from the dining room filled the room. "He won't even know where he is once we increase the dosage." Mark's voice, cold, cruel. "My business is failing. We are drowning in debt. This house is our lifeline. This is our payout." The color drained from their faces. They were trapped, exposed in the harsh fluorescent light of the conference room. Mark's facade shattered. His arrogance dissolved into pure rage. "You old fool," he screamed at me, jumping to his feet. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You set us up. You spied on your own daughter. You poisoned me," I said, my voice quiet, but filling the room. "You tried to steal my mind. You tried to steal my life." Chloe dissolved into tears, real panic tears this time. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to." She turned to Mark, her eyes wild. "He made me. He said it was the only way. We were going to lose everything." She reached out to me, her face streaked with mascara. "Please, Dad, don't let them do this to me. Please, Dad, forgive me. I love you." I looked at her, my daughter, the child I raised, the woman who was willing to destroy my sanity for money. The betrayal was complete. The words "I love you" sounded hollow, meaningless, coming from the same mouth that told me I was crazy, the same hands that fed me poison. You didn't just try to steal my house, Chloe, I said, my voice thick with grief. You tried to steal everything that made me who I am. You made me believe I was losing my mind. I thought of Martha. You took the memory of your mother and you poisoned it. Dad, please. As of this moment, Mr. Evans announced, cutting through the emotional turmoil with cold, legal precision, Mr. Thompson has revoked any previous documents granting you access to his affairs. He has established a new, irrevocable trust. Miss Linda Harrison will be the executor of his estate and holds his power of attorney, effective immediately. Mark stared at him, stunned into silence. The final nail in the coffin. Furthermore, Mr. Evans continued, we are pressing charges for elder abuse, fraud, financial exploitation, and attempted poisoning. The door to the conference room opened. A woman in a sharp suit stood there. Detective Chen. 2 uniformed officers were behind her. Mark Davis. Chloe Thompson. Detective Chen said, her voice calm and authoritative. You are under arrest. Chloe collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably, her body shaking. Mark stared at the table, defeated, his empire of lies crumbling around him. The officers moved in and handcuffed him. I stood up. I looked at Chloe one last time as they pulled her to her feet. The little girl I loved was gone forever. Goodbye, Chloe. I walked out of the office, without looking back. Linda's steady hand on my arm. The aftermath was quiet. Linda helped me change the locks on the house. The legal process began. Detective Chen kept me updated. Mark's financial fraud was extensive. He had stolen from his clients. He was facing decades in prison, with the added charges of elder abuse and attempted poisoning. He was denied bail. Robert Henderson, my former lawyer, was also investigated for collusion and malpractice. His career was over. The house was safe. My mind was clear, but the silence was heavy, filled with the ghosts of the family I thought I had. A week later, I was sitting on the porch, drinking coffee with Linda. The morning sun was warm on my face. We were talking about planting a new rose bush, where the old one had died. A car pulled up at the end of the driveway. It wasn't Mark's expensive car. It was a beat-up sedan. Chloe got out. She was alone. She looked terrible. Her clothes were rumpled, her eyes red and swollen. She was out on bail, paid for by the last of her savings. She walked towards the porch, stopping at the bottom of the steps. She looked small, broken. Dad? She called out, her voice trembling. Please, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about, I said. I didn't get up. Please, Dad, she begged, tears streaming down her face. I made a terrible mistake, the worst mistake of my life. She fell to her knees on the grass. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I have nowhere else to go. She was desperate. I lost everything, she cried. My husband, my job, my home. I'm going to jail. She was begging me, pleading for mercy, pleading for her father to save her. I looked at my daughter. I searched for the little girl who used to bring me broken toys, but I couldn't see her. I only saw the woman who stood by while her husband tried to erase my sanity, the woman who handed me the poison with a smile. I thought of the fear, the confusion, the agonizing doubt they had inflicted on me, the terror of believing I was losing my mind. I thought of Martha and the love that built this house. I stood up, my back straight. I walked to the edge of the porch, looking down at her. You told me the wedding was a week ago, I said, my voice cold and steady. You tried to erase my past. Now you have no future here. I took a deep breath. Get off my property. I turned around. I walked back into the house. Linda followed me. I closed the door, shutting her out of my life for good. I heard her cry out, a sound of utter despair, but I kept walking. I walked into the living room. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, illuminating the sturdy beams I had installed so long ago. I looked at the mantelpiece. The picture of Martha smiled at me. Next to it sat the walnut jewelry box, the perfect craftsmanship, the cherry blossom inlay. It was a beautiful box, made by a man who loved his daughter. It represented 4 months of devotion, now tainted by betrayal. I picked it up. I turned to Linda. You have always been a true friend, Linda. Like family, I said, handing her the box. I want you to have this. Linda's eyes filled with tears. Arthur, I can't. You made it for Chloe. I made it for someone I loved and trusted, I said, placing it in her hands. It deserves to be owned by someone good, someone loyal. She took the box, her hands trembling. I sat down in my favorite chair. The victory was won, but it felt hollow. I had saved my house, that I had lost my daughter. Yet, as I watched the dust motes dance in the sunlight, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I was still here. I was still Arthur, and that was enough. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments.
If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot because your time matters.